I'm gonna be a dad.
What the
Man, The Last of Us is the gift that keeps giving. And the reason why I put off this review for so long is because it was really hard to get the motivation to watch this. My husband wants to see it through the end because he has a sense of morbid curiosity, I guess. And now I guess I do too, because we hate ourselves, and it helps that we're balancing it out with stuff that we're watching, but this is the kind of show that feels like a chore to watch. I think it's important for consumers also to give feedback on what they didn't like about something rather than just saying, oh, I hated it. Maybe it's giving the writers too much credit, but I figure we can give them some pointers as to why we didn't like something. You know, under the hopes that they'll see it and try to ameliorate their work. Not like I'm wasting my time that I'll never get back. Oh yeah, so there's a flashback, and right off the bat, we get a platoon of soldiers, and one of them is telling a very unfunny joke that is so cringy that it makes me wonder if this was written by someone who's never had interactions with people outside of their immediate group of fake friends that laugh at everything they say.
I caught them out here disseminating. And he goes, what? You fucking perverts are out here jerking off and splooging on my streets?
Ew.
I've heard actual people in the military tell jokes or stories, and you know what? Most of the time they're funny because call it a crazy coincidence, but dudes who've seen shit tend to be a lot funnier, legitimately funny. This feels like the person who wrote this has no idea what soldiers actually talk about or how men actually speak and decided to write this line for them.
Are you gonna tell him? I look back at him like, fuck no. And that's when the guy decides to open his mouth anyway and goes, well, actually, the word disseminate means, and boom! Greenberg slams his fucking head against the wall. There goes his teeth, just blood fucking everywhere. And Greenberg goes, no one asked you, jizz boy.
Oh dear God, I would rather deep throat a spatula and have it get stuck on the way down, requiring me to get surgery so that after I heal I can explain to my doctors why I stuck it down my throat in the first place, because that would be less cringe-inducing and awkward than whatever the hell this is we have to sit through and listen to. So the more inexperienced Fedra cadet or soldier or whatever the frick you want to call him asks the dude who's telling the joke, well, why do they call them voters? Only for Bernard from Westworld to set the record straight and put these ew. He looks like he's making it. No. Ew, I hate that thing so much. I'm sorry. But yeah, Bernard over here from Westworld schools these guys and tells them, you know, how insensitive they are because the people are called voters because they took away their rights. Notice that Bernard's Westworld guy is the only person who had an issue with this or didn't find the joke funny, and he's the leader of this little group, which is interesting. He's a man. Huh. And he's the leader. Is he gonna be evil and toxic? So far, we've only had one female that was, aside from Abby, that is. Though we find out very soon after, because he ends up being a turncoat.
Damn, son!
So now Isaac tells this kid, or at least I think he's got one of those phases, to make his choice. And he's called Isaac in this. Honestly, this episode is already doing well right off the bat. And do you know why that is? Can you guys take a guess? Because it doesn't feature the egghead sidekick, who now has her own sidekick, making them a redundant sidekick loop. Other than that, the rest of the episode outside of Isaac feels as though it's a fan fiction for the Last of Us story. And yes, I know, it's following the games, but it doesn't make the story any less stupid. If anything, it makes it more so. And it makes me wonder, what is the point? So here we are, 11 years later, with Dina and Ellie waltzing through the buildings of Seattle so they can get their revenge. And it makes me wonder, if Ellie were to die right now and get her head ripped off, not only would everyone be cheering, but what would Dina do? Now you're stuck here. What now? Now you go back home?
Ooh, you reckon a yeast infection?
Not today, but give me time.
Your face is a yeast infection. So Dana spots something, and we all know it's gonna be a pregnancy test. Day 1, Seattle. I guess that means it's gonna get crazy from here on out. So they're walking through Seattle, and they notice that this area isn't bombed. There's a bunch of pride rainbows all around. Oh my God, how on the nose.
What's up with all the rainbows? I don't know. Maybe they're all optimists.
Oh, the irony in them saying that. So they go through what they call Rainbow Town, and notice a tank and all the dead bodies of Fedra soldiers who look like they were fighting each other.
I wonder what that was about.
This is one of the reasons nobody likes Ellie. Is she freaking stupid? Does she not understand the laws of physics, material, and cause and effect? Any idiot would have known that if you threw a freaking metal latch open onto itself, it was going to make a loud noise.
I wonder what that was about.
Like, I I find it so funny because she was more competent when Joel was alive. But next to Dina, who has to tell her how to do everything, it's like she's a freaking jellyfish head with no idea how the world works anymore. Like, I could understand. I could give a little bit of leeway if it slipped out of her hand or something, but... Dude, are you fucking dumb? It never occurred to take your pack and put it on the other side or just open it gently, you fucking dumbass. Oh my freaking god, this character's so annoying. I mean, when I was a kid and I was sneaking around trying not to be found by my friends or whatever, I knew those basic things and I was 6. Bro, you're in your 20s and you don't understand that metal on metal makes noise, especially when you fling it out like that. Furthermore, the both of them are doing a bunch of talking. And this is what I'm trying to say, right? Maybe it's not even the character's fault because as far as they're concerned, there's no danger. We haven't seen any clickers, and yeah, we will in this episode, but for the majority of the runtime. And behind the freaking scenes, there has been 0 danger. As a matter of fact, you barely see any wildlife. It's almost like this is a gigantic set piece with nothing living in it. I mean, even in the games, you'll see squirrels or other animals running up trees and stuff. You don't see any of that there in the show. If they were not in the picture with the horse, who was like my favorite character, by the way, come to think of it, you'd believe this is an AI painting devoid of humans. They're acting as though they've never been out in the world before. And maybe you could say that for Dina, but for Ellie, who has traveled across many miles with Joel, and granted, he and her talked a bunch too, which in and of itself was very stupid, and we forgave that because at least the story was slightly a bit better in season 1, you'd think she'd have a little bit more experience. But this is especially dangerous because now, you know, you don't have to only worry about clickers, which you probably don't, but also other people who have no problem killing human beings in cold blood. And these bitches are talking up a storm. Not to mention, where are the tendrils with the cordyceps? This is a fungus that supposedly wiped out entire nations. And yet, in the show, it's so rare you barely ever even see it. Nobody's worried about stepping on tendrils that were like all over the place before. You can just stroll through overgrown areas with lush vegetation without a second thought when those cordyceps tendrils are supposed to be subtle, hidden, and everywhere. The amount of chances and risks that people take in this and call it post-apocalyptic is crazy. I would like for once for them to do a post-apocalyptic show where there's a real and present danger and it remains a real and present danger because there's nothing to suggest otherwise that the clickers are decreasing in number. Even if you say the clickers are not in the location at this moment, right? If you step on the tendrils, that brings them to you. That's the reason why they're scary, because they can know where you are just because of where you step. And it's funny that they forgot to use that until they need to advance the plot, you know, for some reason, like they did with the Jackson Settlement attack, and like they're gonna do later on in this episode. Anyway, because of the plot armor, they're fine. Where was that plot armor for Joel, though?
What is it? 3 burnt skeletons, like Apollo 1. What? Grissom, White, Chaffee, early astronauts. They're supposed to be the first ones to go to the moon, but they never made it off the launch pad. Burned up in their capsule.
Oh my god, what a wonderful fun fact. At a very odd moment.
They never made it off the launch pad. Burned up in their capsule.
Like you should have in your mother's stomach.
That's cold.
Also, I find it rich that she has all this knowledge about things that most people wouldn't, but you know, you don't know the basics, like not making noise by flinging a piece of metal upon another piece of metal, you unbaked marshmallow. So anyway, they see the satellite on the big building with a WLF symbol, which tells them that this is the place they need to be.
Fuck yeah, let's go. You sure about that? Oh my god, you gonna fucking tell me? If you paint a sign big enough to be seen from miles away, that means you want people to know that you're there. Which also means more likely than not, you're prepared. And they're on a hill, so they'll see us coming. On horseback in broad daylight, so just a little.
Wow. This is what I'm talking about with the weird character shift and it feeling like they were written by different writers because Ellie is supposed to have a bit more experience than Dina. I mean, or is she? Because we don't know shit about Dina except that she was introduced as the girl that Ellie wants to screw. She's there to be perfect at everything she does and she's there once again to school egghead Ellie into making the right decisions. Oh my god, Dina, I totally didn't know that charging in like this would result in mine and your death. My head has extra space, but all that's in there is air. What would I do without your crotch flaps? Honestly, at this point, what is even Ellie's purpose for existing in this show? Aside from the fact that she's immune and can sometimes probably protect Dina when needed or whatever. Also, I find it interesting that Ellie is willing to lay down her life, knowing that's the risk, you know, and this was before she knew that she was 100% gonna die and they took away that choice from her. This was if there were, like, complications, right? And she was willing to do that, put herself in harm's way to risk her life and die supposedly for humanity. But yet it never occurred to her to make the ultimate sacrifice of carrying a child for humanity, you know, since it's very possible that her immunity could be passed down and they would have more people available to help try and research in case something happens to her. Because if she's dead, that's it. The only known immune person, once it gets out that she's immune, is dead, right? And there might not be another one. Even though it takes a while for babies to grow, not only would it be important to try and win back the population, but also to help contribute towards finding a cure, if that's how you really feel. And maybe one of the simplest ways to do that is having children. But no, anything but that. And trust me, I wouldn't want to be put in that situation either, to be forced to have a child in that scenario. It's very scary, but it's interesting that, her mind never once went there. Nobody's mind ever once went there. In a post-apocalyptic setting, right? Things are not always cut dry when it comes to moral and immorality or what have you, ethics and all of that. Clearly, that would have been one of the things scientists would probably have tried to push. Let's see if it's hereditary. Let's see if it can be passed down. Let's see if we can make more. You mean to tell me scientists were just killing off people and kids who were immune, hoping that it could work, instead of trying to breed them? As fucked up as that is, they were already going to kill a little girl. So you cannot tell me that in this setting and in this situation, those same scientists would not be thinking about breeding people who are more likely to pass down an immunity. I breed rodents, and the first thing I notice is if I see that there's a batch or a litter member that has satin or long curly coats or bigger ears or shorter tails, and one of those things that I'm trying to get in that bloodline, and one of those offsprings has those traits that I'm looking for in that bloodline that I'm trying to build, I'm going to keep that mouse as a breeder because I want to pass down those traits, especially if it's recessive. That mouse is very important because it contains the traits that are important for the bloodline, and I want to see how hereditary it is. That usually is what scientists do, replicate something, but that wouldn't work well for Ellie because she's not straight, As a matter of fact, for the story, that would have made things way more interesting. But anyway.
And right here is the perfect place to hole up because, well, no one's around. Which you proved brilliantly with your tank hatch maneuver. Dick.
You don't have one of those. Also, this is very interesting writing because both these people, only Dina is supposed to be a survivalist in the situation. How do you know that nobody's around? That sound could have carried for miles, and understandably, it would take a while for people to respond or reach that area to check it out. What do you think people are gonna do? Start launching fireworks because they heard your sound? Or are they gonna send a team if they're anywhere close by to go check it out? There might not be any clickers because the writers are protecting these characters from them, but there are other human beings here, right? Evidenced by all the dead bodies and the big sign. Why would you want to stay in the very area where you made that loud noise? It makes no sense. Anyway, they bring Shimmer into what looks like a guitar or music shop. What in the world is going on? I mean, she's not blasting the drums, but why would you even take a risk like this or a chance in a place like this, where there are people around and sound that can possibly carry? There are broken windows and holes in these buildings. Not everything is sealed as it once was. I don't see any sound foam. These cities have concrete buildings erected everywhere and there's no noise, and that sound bounces like crazy. And your first idiotic move is to start playing on the freaking drums? Are these characters stupid? Don't answer that.
Shot if somebody tries to kill you. That's the plan.
Hopefully you can hear it over the drums. Anyway, Ellie finds a perfectly preserved guitar in its case, and it's even got the moisture packs and everything. She decides to go and play right next to an open freaking, it's not even a window, it's a big freaking gaping hole in the building. And she decides to go and play right next to it where sound can easily carry. As we can see, this is obviously supposed to be something to showcase how artsy this is and how sweet it sounds. And even though the song is very nice, and she's not a horrible singer, half the time it doesn't look like she's actually playing or thrumming the guitar, so it could have been a post-production thing. It kind of takes me out of the immersion of this supposedly being in a post-apocalyptic setting. I'm sorry, that was a lie. That I told myself just now, because this has zero immersion. This feels like a fan fiction by someone who has no idea how a post-apocalyptic landscape in this specific setting works. I'm not saying the characters have to be deathly afraid every single moment of their lives, but at least make them seem as though they're in danger or that they're aware of the danger. They feel like baby dinosaurs that just hatched out of their eggs and are exploring the world around them. It makes no freaking sense. Furthermore, I'm forgetting that this is a revenge journey. The only time that this ever works is what they did in I Am Am Legend with Will Smith. He already knew that those things were asleep during the day. So my guy could make as much noise as he wanted and do whatever he wanted because they only came out at night. He also did a good job, and we are seeing him doing the motions of covering up his scent trail and did everything he needed to do to keep himself and Sam safe. And the writing was so much better in that movie because the only reason those things ended up finding Neville was because number one, he took one of their own, one of the women that belonged to the vampire things. And when he got knocked out after being in a very bad state following his loss, I don't even like talking about it because it still breaks me up, somebody saved his life and brought him back to his house. He was kind of out of it when he told her the address, but he was too far gone to remember to tell her that they needed to cover their tracks.
What is that? Was it still dark when you brought us home last night?
We were bleeding. There was light on the horizon.
Turn the light off. Turn it off. They followed us home.
So yeah, as you can see here, because she didn't know his routine, they were like, all right, it's time to go. It's go time. Let's party. We found you, bitch. And they locked onto a scent. And I was completely immersed in the story. It's one of my favorite movies because it made fucking sense. If you're going to tell a story in a world of fiction where things don't exist in the real world, but you want us to actually be invested in it, it has to make sense. You have to sell it as being real. They sell the cordyceps as being very scary, but you barely get to see them until the plot needs them to be there. Still, my favorite parts of this show are the very first parts of the first season in the first episode. I enjoyed watching Thandie Newton 2.0, and I was hoping she'd stick around for the long run, but you know, she's gotta go tame dragons and shit. Anyway, back to the butchered version of the story. Dina sees her playing, then she starts crying because she's so in love with Ellie because Ellie's singing the song and playing the guitar. Sorry for being that person, but I feel absolutely nada. Because it would have made sense if we had an entire season to build up to these characters liking each other like they did with Michonne and Rick. Michonne and Rick made sense in The Walking Dead because they had been together for a very long time. They had become partners and friends, associates, and then later it evolved into something more.
Have your meds.
Oh shit. Still to this day.
To this day! To this day! To this day!
Still feels like one of the best payoffs ever. It felt real and it felt very earned. And this was a very long time coming. Same thing with Shameless with Mickey and Ian. There was crazy chemistry with those characters. And also in True Blood, which, if we ignore the fact that they made the main black characters who were not biracial or light-skinned gay, Tara has great chemistry with Pam. I'm on the last season of True Blood, so I don't know what happens as a result, but if they end up together, it would make sense. You could see how their relationship evolved over time. From Tara hating Pam when Tara was a human to Pam turning Tara and making her a progeny to Pam trying her best not to fall in love with Tara. So yes, it makes sense and I'm honestly rooting for them. They also had drama in there with them not being available to each other or Pam not being available to her, which is funny because Tara was never available for people emotionally. And you want them to get together, so there's some kind of push and pull, and also there will be a payoff if they end up together. At this moment in the video, I don't know if they do, but I really do hope that they do. As I've said before in previous videos, there was no lead up to Dina and Ellie. You would think that as a main character, or sorta, kinda, whatever, we would get Ellie having some evolution and payoff with her love interest, but there is zero of that. She's just immediately in love with Dina, and Dina's immediately in love with her, and Dina's falling all over her, and that's it. There's no push and pull, there's nothing, there's no tension, not enough for it to feel earned. It feels like Dina was just put there for Ellie's pleasure alone, as if Ellie manufactured her out of some AI construct of the perfect girlfriend, and she's not even perfect. At this point, it's so ridiculous and surface level that I would actually respect the show if they reveal to us later on that Dina was actually a figment of Ellie's imagination. Because first of all, Dina is with Ellie. Anyway, Ellie is stupid when it comes to Dina, and all of a sudden it's like she doesn't have a brain anymore, which is already saying a lot, because she didn't have one to begin with. But this is supposed to be someone who can have Dina's back and protect Dina, and she can't think for herself. Sorry, what the fuck? What the fuck was that? She's so freaking stupid that I can imagine if Dina were her long-term partner, she wouldn't feel safe with Ellie. She'd probably be carrying the relationship. Except for one part they did fix in this episode later on, with some kind of sacrifice, but then it just comes off as Dina just being there to pity Ellie, or it being a gratitude thing. I know that's not what this is, but that's what the pairing feels like. It feels awkward. And Dina's actress is doing a good job, but it just doesn't feel real. It feels like she's an imaginary character, and that would actually make sense since Joel died and Ellie feels lonely or whatever, for her to concoct this and for us to see the effects of loss and sadness, because otherwise I don't believe that Ellie is sad or going through loss. What the hell is going on with her bottom jaw? And hey, maybe it's a symptom or a side effect of her being immune. Anything else would be more interesting. Could you imagine finding out that all of this is happening and we're all annoyed because we feel like this pairing just came out of nowhere, only to find out that Dina never existed and it was her way, Ellie's way of coping, and everything, all her interactions with people was just people humoring Ellie because she was freaking crazy and using that as a coping mechanism, and she's actually out here by herself in Seattle trying to go after these people. As much as I hate those kind of plot twists, well, I don't really hate them. It depends on the way they're done, but a lot of people do. I still think that for this show, it would work. And maybe that's not saying much because it's a very low bar for the show. It wouldn't excuse all the bad writing, but that honestly would have made it better. Well, I keep imagining the clicker blasting through the hole in the wall that her back is to, so she can't tell if someone's climbing up the wall or something's watching them, and just grabbing her by the shoulders and yanking her out of the building. Or someone taking a headshot to her, because it's a very precarious situation to put yourself in to play a guitar right by the opening of a freaking building, so the sound can carry extra well. It's like they're tempting the plot gods at this point.
We've gotten pretty good. Thanks. All those lessons from Joel.
Yeah, let's remind the fans of the character that no longer exists, just so we can have this story with these two unimportant characters that nobody cares about. And you know what? This would have been more poignant and would have hit harder if we'd actually seen those lessons ahead of time, so it would have made more sense, but whatever, fuck all.
Who cares? Who cares?
So Dina's like, you know what? I'm so moist. Let's go make some beef jerky to dry all this moisture up. And instead of this bitch putting the guitar back in its case with the moisture packs like she found it so someone else who comes along can probably find it, Elmer Fudd over here leaves the guitar right out there so it can be exposed to the elements and moisture and overgrowth and ruin a perfectly preserved instrument just so we can get the art shot as they walk away.
Really?
How selfish is this character? Like, it's literally put there almost like this was a music video. You know how they have movie, like the movie sometimes in the music videos, and you know, the song is playing. Let's just pretend there was no dialogue, nothing here, and just a song behind them or whatever, and this was the artist or whatnot. And then it's the end of the video now, and the song has ended, right? And the artist puts the instrument down as like, artistic shot. Conclusion of story in music video. And now the music video ends. The artist walks away and they do the art shot with them leaving the guitar or the instrument there, you know, like so we can sink in how badass that song performance was. Even the setup of the landscape. Maybe it's just me, but those plants look so freaking fake. It's so pretentious. The shot itself is beautiful. The elements of it and the writing of it, the way it's constructed is just weird. And yes, I know the plants are fake. I know they are, but you're not supposed to be able to tell. It looks like somebody took some glue and just pasted a whole bunch of them together. And this is coming from someone who lives in a freaking forest. I see how the plants grow here. And yes, the forest does take over everything. I've got moss outside with all these different ferns and creeping vines, clovers, 12 different species of grass growing in the same area. It's absolutely breathtaking. But you don't see plants growing like this, not on concrete. I know there's creeping moss and carpet moss and different types of vines. And you know what? I thought maybe I'm being too critical or tripping, but then I looked it up because it just looked off to me. You know, you could tell something looks off. Like, look at the way these things are put together. These don't look like they're growing naturally. And I thought maybe I'm being too critical, right? That I just nitpicking. Maybe I am. At this very moment, like right now, after I took the break from saying not on concrete, I looked it up just out of curiosity to see if anybody else felt the same way. And lo and behold, I found this Reddit post. It's not just me. Now, this person is saying what he's saying for a whole different reason. And I probably would have believed them if I hadn't been exposed to nature and grown up around it. But there's some instances where it's supposed to look like wild growth, but it somehow looks too put together. Like if a hipster or something were to get an apartment in the city and they like said, oh, I want a nature vibe. And they made it look like this is how I would decorate my room. To give it a nature theme, but it's not actually nature. It's too put together, too even. You just can tell. Like someone is trying to make an art set for Halloween or for Gaia or whatever. And it looks like someone just took a whole bunch of random stuff and glued it in there. I know it's a nitpick. It's just something I noticed, especially because I actually do legit live in the wilderness. And here's the best part about the episode, Bernard/Isaac. If we got this whole show revolving around just this man, not knowing whether or not he's a bad guy or a good guy. I mean, at the moment, he seems like a really bad guy because he's literally torturing the skin off someone who is, nakedified. And hats off to them for showing a willy. It's so rare. Like, I know people are gonna think I'm crazy for praising this, but it's kind of annoying when we only see women showing their parts. Like, ooh, women, breasts, all that stuff. Yeah, we never see the dudes doing it. Equality, am I right? It's not just dudes that watch TV. Gay guys watch TV too. A bunch of straight women watch TV too. Sometimes we appreciate that. But at first I was confused because this person legit looked like a woman with balls just hanging out there resting on the tiles. But I guess it's just a very super religious femboy. Like I had to do a double take.
She watches stuff for me. Then she's been watching you get your ass kicked.
Not gonna lie, this dude's kind of hilarious. Bernard is probably the villain of the story, or maybe not, who knows. They actually did a good job of telling and not showing with his introduction, and we're getting a look into the mind of this monster, and we have no idea why he's doing what he's doing, except for that the guy on the floor, his people, were killing his people. But it's 100% more interesting than whatever the hell we were looking at with this nature walking music video shit. So clearly, this is a whole tit for tat situation, where the why so serious people attack Bernard's people, Isaac's people, and back and forth we go. But Isaac's not about that noise. And when he sees the guy bravely stick his hand out like, it's okay, you can torch me as much as you want. Here's the other hand for you to burn. Bernard's like, okay, you're not gonna be useful. Goes the weasel. Meanwhile, we see the inexperienced green soldier go from a very innocent person to a hardened man, now under the wing of Isaac.
Scar got what he deserved. Fucking animal.
It's crazy how this person can go from looking like a sweet little puppy to a Minecraft box head creeper sociopath.
Second floor. So somebody hopped onto the shed, climbed the downspout, broke the window, and got cut on the way in? Well, I guess that's our way in too.
Why was that a reason for her making this fucking face? Ew. So they go in trying to piece together what's going on, why those arrows are sticking out of a WL person. Then they come upon a bunch of dudes strung up like Christmas decorations with their intestines hanging down in ropes. Clearly the ones who did this were the why so serious people. Also, does anyone else find it odd that these people keep turning on their flashlights in the middle of the night while trying not to be noticed by a group of militia? Those flashlights are so bright and they're gonna bring attention to themselves. I know they need to see, but even when they had opportunities where they could see, they still use them. You haven't cleared the rooms. You don't know who's in here. Why are you using your flashlight so often? Honestly, even I Am Legend did this better. He only used a flashlight when absolutely necessary, and then he covered it up the rest of the times so he wasn't shining it longer than needed to be. Overall, this movie actually did a much better job of instilling fear of this man having a healthier fear of things that could rip him apart, even though he was a good survivalist. Ellie may be immune, but she's not immune to having her throat ripped out, and yet we're supposed to believe she's somehow a better fighter, able to neutralize these fully grown, crazy clicker things better than an actual grown man or woman. So they figure that they need to get out of here, because once they realize that the dead female soldier has a walkie-talkie, now was the time. That's why they decide they need to leave. Not because they saw the weird corpses that were there as a result of people who had clearly been there recently, stringing up dead bodies with barbed wire.
Did she call for backup? Yeah, we gotta get out of here. Shit, get down, down.
Oh no, too late.
Scar's got all of them. I'll see Brancaccio or Welsh, yeah.
The lead soldier is very upset, understandably, because these were his friends, and he tells them to fan out and inspect the area. And these soldiers do a very poor job of that. But I really can't blame them, because the writing has made the plot armor so thick around Ellie and Dina that the soldiers stand no chance. I must admit, though, that this middle portion of the episode where they're doing that whole cat and mouse thing is the bare minimum amount of entertainment that we're getting. Egghead makes her way up the stairs, and nobody saw that because she now has a cloaking device over her body that makes it impossible to detect or hear her. She's loud every other time except for when it's impossible not to be. When they do suspense in the show, it's done well, actually. Except it's really weird that these people are fanning out to cover an entire area, knowing there are people nearby who can kill them with arrows from hidden spots, and yet they're not doing a quicker, more thorough job of sweeping the place. I've seen actual people sweep areas. They're not moving in freaking slow motion with their flashlights. They're careful, but if there's a lot of them, they're quick and deliberate, so whoever might still be there can't get the drop on them. But not these guys. They don't even do thorough checks.
Clear. Stairs clear.
Really? Nobody thinks to go up there? There's a tiny blind spot where someone or something could be laying flat that you can't see from your perspective, hiding in the corner. Go up the stairs and find out before you claim that the stairs are completely clear. Jesus Christ. Egghead tries to find a way out, but it's too late, and she has to get a drop on the sky. Wow. I know people are going to get upset with me and say, people panic in those situations, you know, but have you ever sparred with anyone before? Have you ever sparred with men? First, how is she able to freaking tackle? Look, I grew up with cousins and my little brothers. I've roughhoused with my ex-boyfriends. Even some of the boyfriends that weren't very particularly tall they would still, universally, and friends as well, would do either one of two things, right? And these were the majority of the things. And we played really freaking rough. Sometimes it was on a carpet or a bed because they didn't want to hurt me, but sometimes it wasn't. But this is something I always did with my little brothers, or my ex-boyfriends did with me, or my friends. If I jumped on their back, right, and tried to take them down, first of all, they would get up with me, no problem. Just like that guy did. They would stand up on their legs because I'm tiny, and they would like, okay, you're like a flea on my back. I remember like holding my arms, like trying to do kind of a chokehold on my ex-boyfriend. And he told me to do it, by the way. I wasn't trying to kill him. I wasn't really choking him, but I was trying to use his neck to bring him down. And like I had the same kind of positioning or whatever. And he was still laughing while I was doing the exact same move that Ellie was doing. I mean, holy shit, it was so haunting. I could see the side of his face and he was laughing as he stood up like a freaking Terminator with no freaking problem, effortlessly, while I was still on his back, frantically trying to bring him down. Then he peeled my arms off of him like I had zero strength. Mind you, I was cut back then. I was in sports, I was really athletic, and I was stronger than the average female, even though I was small. And I watched this man peel my freaking arms apart. And it's not like he was your average redneck. Dude spent most of his time playing video games, and he was still able to freaking peel me off of him like a freaking piece of paper. And I was more athletic than he was. It was very embarrassing, but also kind of hot. And he was laughing the entire time while I was doing it. It's like I wasn't even hanging onto his neck. I was trying to choke him like, come on, get down. And he was laughing through that. To be fair, his neck was very thick, but still. Other times with him or another ex or a friend, they would simply walk me over to the bed or the grass or whatever it was, and I was on their back and they would just fall backwards. Now, they could have in those situations taken their head and bashed in my face with it, the back of their head, which is what I would do in that situation if I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. The other thing they did sometimes, less so because they didn't want to hurt me, but if it was on a carpet or a bed or a soft area, they would flip me over in front of them quite easily. Like, I had no leverage while I was flipping over freaking forward, doing a front flip over their freaking head. The fact that these military trained people, or at least militia, and these people are supposedly really well trained, they have no idea how to get rid of a little person stuck to their back like a freaking tick is just really bizarre. The plot armor is wild, and this person just keeps standing there with the gun instead of going over and peeling that person off of his friend, because it's clear the attacker is hanging on and they don't have a weapon or they're not using it right now. I mean, the guy to tell him not to shoot, maybe he was waiting to see if his buddy got it because there's no reason his buddy shouldn't have that. Shoot that window! This is so freaking stupid. First of all, the guy could have gotten her off, but Ellie had the knife on her this whole time and chose not to use it until right now. Why was your knife not already drawn? The whole time, I just wanted them to get caught. So they find a small place to crawl into, and they claim they can fit in there, but those other guys can't. Again, case in point, guy tells his friends that they're going through the access tunnel. At this point, I think it'd be less worth it to go into a place like this, specifically for revenge, when you're this ill-equipped, but that's just me. So the soldiers come around and find them, and remember the clickers that never show up until the plot needs them to? Well, there you go, folks. The plot needs them to. And there's one of the tendrils, or several of them, that gets set off and calls the infected to their location. You know, only because Ellie and Dina need them to come and save them from these guys. I mean, these guys threw a random flare, and it just happened to land on one of these things, yet Ellie and Dina went cross-country with a horse through lots of lush vegetation, making all this kind of noise and whatnot, and didn't hit a single one of these things.
Really?
So freaking Dina is doing the finger counting thing, and she's like, oh no, there's lots of them. That means there's many of them. We're gonna be in trouble now. So the shit hits the fan, and that's when we actually get to see some action, which is absolutely shocking because I had completely forgotten that this show was even about these things. So now they're in trouble and they're running for their lives. I think it's the clickers that should be running in the opposite direction. What kind of gun is that she's firing? That's not a revolver. Is it a Smith & Wesson? It doesn't matter. Why is it not emptying its casings? When pistols are fired, or when someone pulls the trigger, you're supposed to see the slide rack back in order to eject the casing of the bullet that was just used and to chamber a new round. This isn't a new phenomenon in Hollywood. People already know this. Like, it's not new. And you can see how smooth this is. Look at the recoil, first of all, and you watch it chambering the new round. See that? But every time she fires this gun, you don't see that at all. At least she's making sort of kind of an effort to make the gun look like it's recoiling, which, you know, whatever. Even though, like, waving it up in the air doesn't really make that realistic. But okay, she's kind of trying. But what makes it even weirder is you cannot see any evidence of the gun having been fired aside from the bright flash. They're just hoping that you don't notice because they assume you know nothing about firearms. That's why we have people thinking that guns are gonna just jump out of their cases and stuff and then go around hunting people without any humans attached to them. It's almost as annoying to me as video games or movies that use horse racing animations that make the horses look like they're freaking skinwalkers. I mean, it's not like we don't have countless resources out there so people can see how horses run effectively. Horses in motion are one of the most beautiful things. Every time they move, it looks like they're dancing. And when they run, it's majestic and beautiful, and yet people don't know how to this day to get that right. You'd think by now that people would be used to that since they use horses in movies so often, but people still can't animate a simple running horse even though we have countless examples to pull from. It's very annoying. Even though I like those old games Gallop Racer, which I collected over the years, they have their issues. G1 Jockey and Pickpock's Rival Stars are the closest things that I've seen to getting it right. See, from the back of the horse, it actually looks like a horse. Breath of the Wild did a decent job as well. But as for firearms, look, I'm not saying I'm an expert or whatever, but if I'm able to pick that up, remember, people are watching, and you can bet they're gonna pick it up too, especially, let's say they don't even own any firearms, but they're a big fan of action movies or whatever, and they pay attention to details and realism. They're gonna pick that up. Does it matter in the grand scheme of things? Jesus Christ. What in the downtown dumpling? What was I saying? Anyway, freaking face scared the freaking thought out of my head. Yeah, I was asking if it matters overall. Like, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? And I would say that you might be able to overlook it if everything else felt thoughtfully crafted, like the show had real pride in its execution. But because so much of it is shallow and immersion breaking, all the little flaws start to glare. So there's a part where one of them is gonna get stuck, and it's Dina. Ideally, if Ellie really wanted to protect her wonderful friend, she would have pushed her through first. I mean, to be fair, you don't know what's on the other side anyway, but you gotta set up the story. So Ellie makes it through the rusty turnstile thing, and Dina gets stuck. And when one of the infected comes to bite Dina, oh no, Ellie puts her arm in the way, because remember, Dina doesn't know she's infected. And to give the show credit, at least they did a decent job with the action in this scene. And I just wish more of the show was like this, even though there's a lot of contrivances. So now Dina's like, I need to kill this trick.
Okay, I know you're scared. Please don't. But I need you to understand something.
Please don't make this any harder than it has to be.
Wait.
Why did you do that? Why the fuck did you have to do that?
Please listen to me. I would die for you. I would. But that is not what just happened.
Obviously, because we know that if it really came down to it and Ellie was not immune, she wouldn't do shit. So she tells Dina she's immune, and they do a freaking taste test. Sorry, I'm kidding. Not a taste test. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, they do a taste test where Ellie sits down across the room from Dina. Dina has to stay up so she can watch Ellie to prove that Ellie's not gonna turn. She's like, I've been bit before and all that jazz. And then, when Dina is convinced, she drops a bomb on Ellie.
Ellie. I'm pregnant. What?
One thing I noted about this particular scene is how much of a better actor Dina's actress is than Ellie's. I mean, it's a night and day difference to me. It's weird because Dina kind of outshines Ellie in every single scene, and Ellie's a side character as well.
I'm pregnant. What?
I mean, I wouldn't have dropped the light, but whatever. So, I guess they get a payoff when Ellie decides to stick her hand in Dina's pants. I'm very ignorant. I'm sorry. I don't get it. Okay. Is it considered fucking or just copping a feel? Because for me, this is just like really intense teasing and foreplay. What's the crescendo? Where does it go from there, aside from eating and licking and fingering? Like, at that point, I could just do that myself. Yes, all of those. So I don't know, dude. I've only talked to 2 lesbian couples that were my close friends where I actually hear them talking about stuff like that. But it's not like we got into the nitty gritty of it. But they say they use a lot of toys and different things. One thing they normally do is use a strap-on, or, you know, the hard bits that come with the dudes naturally. So in a situation like this, you know, like, you can't use a stick. Like, what are you gonna look around for things to eat? Like, cause you're gonna get splinters inside your freaking cotton candy. So, and your fingers are cute, but maybe girls are different when they're attracted to girls. But you know, there's that feeling when you need to be stretched. Girls, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, guys do too. Like some dudes like that. And like, it's nice when you do it yourself, but there's like something about the feeling of being filled, and fingers don't do that. So what do they do in this specific situation? Is this like a stopgap until they can? What do they use? Do they carve out something to use? Or are they completely satisfied never being filled ever again? And it's crazy because Dina likes guys too. So when it's not enough where she needs something else, is it considered cheating if she decides to get with Jesse again, even though she's not romantically in love with him, but likes him? I mean, different strokes for different folks. I guess, well, not these guys because there's no stroking going on. But anyway, see, this would have been a great payoff if they actually had chemistry and both actors were on the same level and we had their relationship built over time, but we didn't, so it isn't. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm so freaking sorry. I'm just really ignorant. And I would like to know because I'm curious. I'm human. What do you want? Let's say Ellie stuck her hand into Dina's, you know, they do it octopus style where she used the arm to whatever. You know what I'm saying? Aside from pleasing Dina, what does Ellie get out of it? Does Dina just lie there and she's like totally tired now? And she's like, oh, that was fucking great. I'm gonna go to sleep now. Or does Dina now have to return the favor? Because like maybe that's because I can only see it one way. I don't know. And the only same-sex experience I had was against my will from an older woman when I was a child. And I was not into that at all when she was doing it to me. So then she had the nerve to freaking tell me to, okay, you do me now. And I was like, no, hell no. Okay, I didn't actually say hell no. That's what I was thinking, right? I was fucking 8 years old, dude. And it was freaking weird. It was just really weird to me. But from my experience, when dudes and women are doing it, even when gay guys are doing it, both people are getting something out of it immediately at the same time, or they're able to at least have an option to do that. A gay guy starts mixing the pancake batter, and the guy whose batter is being mixed is getting a lot of nice feelings from his walls being stretched and his walnut being tickled, and the guy who's doing the mixing is feeling the strokage. So they both at the same time are giving and getting, if you know what I mean. It's instant gratification. But yeah, same thing with men and women. The women like the feel of being carved out, and the men like the feeling of their knives being sheathed. If you're really good at it and you have the right anatomical prowess, you can even go the full mile and make the woman do the blasty bit thing that you do naturally as a guy. So with lesbians, I'm just really curious. If you're in a situation where you don't have a thing to do the filling and the mixing and the carving, are fingers enough? Is it all about just getting the O? Then what if Dina is a selfish lover, right? And she's only used to someone doing it to her and she doesn't want to return the favor? Because I've heard a lot of studs on videos claim that it's very frustrating when they date bi-curious or other lesbian girls that are not studs because they're not very,
I'm a stud, I like girls, but I think I'm finna start dating men. And let me tell you why. So I've been out here dating and I just find that I date a lot of these femmes and it seems like they're looking for a parent instead of a partner, bro. Like, and I love spoiling my women. I love paying for stuff. I love taking them on dates and getting them flowers and make sure they're good in every way, make sure they're safe, opening the door for them, all that. I love that stuff. But it seems like I can't get any spoiling in return. Nobody wants to play their role. I'm getting girls flowers, taking them on these crazy dates and, you know, and them real good, you know, at the end of the night, make sure they get home safe, getting all of this and getting nothing in return. Like, I don't know if girls are fake gay, but they don't even want to, like, they don't even want to F back. Like, they don't even want to back. Like, I'm like, what? I be trying to ask girls, like, are you gay for real? Like, are you gay? Cause you, like, you know what I'm saying? It even comes down to the conversation. I be carrying the conversation, asking them questions, figuring out what they like and what they don't like. And they don't ask nothing back. Like, I asked this one girl, like, why don't you ask nothing about me? And she said, I'm just trying to see for myself. What? Like, if I'm paying for everything, I'm doing all the transportation, I'm initiating everything, the least you could do is a little, or something, or bring me some flowers, walk to the gas station, give me a bag of chips. I'm not asking for a lot, but it seems like I am because I can't get anything out these girls, you know, and not everything is about this. But if you're not gonna do this and make sure that I'm satisfied, then you have to pay for something. You're gonna have to pull up, you're gonna have to give me something, some blunts, some alcohol or something. And honestly, I ain't gonna lie, you rolling up every once in a while ain't even enough no more. It's not enough. Like, I need the full experience the same way that I'm giving you. And I just feel like with a man, like, he's automatically expected to do things, put stuff in motion, pay for stuff, all of that stuff. And I know if I had a boyfriend, I would reciprocate his energy and treat him really well because I already have that in me as a masculine presented person. And honestly, I'm not even masculine. Like, I'm kind of STEM. Like, I'm kind of STEM. I like to switch it up. Like, I like to be masc most of the time, but I will put on some lashes and a cute outfit and everything like that. So that part of me ain't feeling the not getting nothing in return. It just got me, like, overwhelmed. And as a giver, I need me a giver. And maybe I just haven't found her yet, but it's making me think, like, maybe I'm on the wrong side because at least I know with a man I'm supposed to get some type of spoiling.
It's a lot of studs that's going back to men. I'm seeing a lot of content about women telling their stories about how they going back to men because women are just too wicked out here. Like, these women aren't just, they're not over their gay phases and they're just like, okay, fun's over. Like, nah, like, they like, nah, I really do like women. I want to take a woman serious, but you know what? These women are so wicked out here, bro. Like, if I'm gonna be with a being, I might as well just pick the lesser out of two evils. And they going back to men. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm seeing enough content that's pertaining to that. And it's just like, ladies, this ain't a wake-up call to y'all. This ain't a wake-up call to tighten up and maybe heal and be better people. Like, guys is saying the same thing about y'all, studs is saying the same thing about y'all, and studs are women too, just in case y'all forgot. Like, other women with sense and other men are saying the same thing about y'all. Y'all don't want to get y'all stuff together?
So yeah, from what I'm hearing in, like, the real world and also in a lot of videos, the stud has to do all the work, and they claim, or at least that girl did in that last video that I watched, that it feels nice knowing that her partner's getting off. And in another video that I can't really find, there was another one saying, well, I can't actively feel anything with the toy because it's not directly attached to me, so, you know, I'm doing all the physical work, you know, and she's doing the lying there while I'm doing the parting and the licking. And I guess the person in the video was like, she's getting nothing in return, or when she finally does, it's half-hearted. That particular video I'm talking about, that other one that I watched, there were a few others, but that one specifically, that stud even said that she was thinking about going back to dudes as well because she wanted to be treated right. Now, I'm not saying all lesbians do this, but is this a problem that studs or masculine presenting ones usually find as an issue? Are you just choosing really selfish lovers? What if you really are in love with the person, but they just don't want to give back that way? They're just receivers. Then what do? I'm sure it's very good for the ego to know you can make a girl do the same thing you can make yourself do. I don't really see that as a feat because you can already do it yourself and kind of sort of have almost the same mechanics. But then, what if they don't want to do it back? Would that relationship last? What happens if Dina decides she wants to go back and get some Korean dick again and she tells Ellie and Ellie can't do that for her? Would Ellie be okay with an open relationship because that's the only part that Dina requires? Would Ellie just be a simp just waiting for Dina when she gets back home after she fucks her ex? I don't know, dude. It's not even like Dina is fully lesbian, and I've heard that can be a problem for people who are strictly lesbian. People date bi-curious women and they decide they're not lesbian enough, and then they just stick around for a short period of time and then leave. I think that's very painful. And I don't know, I think it's like worth it to ask all those questions ahead of time so you don't get hurt. But then again, some of these girls lie. But to be fair, Ellie hasn't had a lot of experience in the romantic angle, so whatever. It's not like she had long-term relationships to learn from. And chances are, because of the way the writing and the show is, it's going to probably completely be perfect and not have any problems whatsoever.
Beefy.
Aw, it's so good that they're able to take a rest and be completely at ease in order to do this. It kind of would have been nice if we saw Joel get some of this. The poor man deserved it, you know what I'm saying? Like, if anyone needed to have a freaking good lay, and us see him have some downtime and fall in love this way, it would have been Joel. But I guess he only served that purpose, to serve his new adopted daughter, and whoopsie daisy, sorry, he's dead now, so like, whatever, just a body in a bag. And the adopted daughter's getting her rocks off with people around her, and that's it. By the way, has anyone else noticed it's so easy to forget that Ellie really loved Joel? Because we don't see her working through her grief at all. It's not like it's been a year after. It's been only almost like a bit over a couple of months or 3 months or whatever. We don't see her working through any grief, which would have made the relationship she had with Joel more real. But we already know, since I told you the last video, that wasn't there. Clearly, the person in charge of the second part of the story wanted this to be the new story now, and is basically retconning what the show's about.
Okay.
So fuck Joel.
Yeah, fuck him.
So Ellie tells Dina that she's gotten bitten a few times and she covered up with a burn or whatever. So now Dina's the only other person who knows. So Dina, when asked, hey, why now? Why now did you decide to freaking put your head lips on my inner leg thigh lips? And Dina explains that she thought that Ellie was gonna die, and the future she had in her head disappeared because Ellie would have been dead. Then she talks about them having kids and wonders if Ellie even wants that, as if Ellie can give her kids. Also, where would you be getting the kids from? Are you gonna kidnap them for one of the very small population of people left at the settlement? You know, if this hadn't been Jesse's situation, if they decided that they wanted them, how would that go? I don't think they have an artificial insemination set up, so you'd have to actually lie down with someone else to do it. Are you gonna order them off of via post-apocalyptic eBay? Funny, because the freaking men that Ellie seems to hate so much, she's gonna have to require them to inseminate her girlfriend so that they can have a child. I wonder how Ellie would deal with that. Before that, we gotta get a long drawn-out explanation of why Dina likes Ellie, because I would have gathered this from before, but it's exposition dump time. Should have been a lean-up or a flashback during the time we were building their relationship, and people may make the argument, well, it's not about the relationship. Really? Really?
I fucking weren't. Oh, sorry. I wanted to.
Yeah.
When I was little, I told my mother I like boys and I like girls, and she said, no, you like boys. And it just, I got stuck. Even after she died, I tried to make things work with Jesse because I like him. I do. I think he's a really good guy, but he wasn't the one.
Interesting. So how do we know for certain that Ellie's the one? I mean, they probably know that because they've been around each other and apparently they've had a relationship for a very long time, but they haven't been dating though. So that's another thing. Like, how do you know that? But we, the audience, would have liked to have known that too, right? We, the audience, would have liked to say, yes, that person is the one. I want them to be together. Yay, I ship these people. But we were just thrown in with these people, and so there's no way of knowing that. And you haven't actually ever dated Ellie. You were just best friends with her. You don't really know that much, and you found out this person was keeping a secret from you. So how do you know anything? How can you tell from spending one night with this person in a romantic way that they're absolutely the one?
Still kept trying anyway. Couldn't let myself just be.
Sorry to break it to you, but that's the thing in straight couples as well. There are some men and some women that will be in a relationship with someone who's a really good woman or a really good man, and they'll still find a way, come hay and high water, to fuck things up because they can't just let themselves be. If this were realistic, I feel like Dina's the kind of person, even though she's charming, that would totally cheat on Ellie. I'm sorry. I've seen this type of person over and over again, even in guys. They're very sweet and you're in love with them and they make you feel like you're the only person in the entire world and they're wholeheartedly just for you, but you'll never ever long-term be enough for them because they'll think you're the one and then they'll find something in someone else that makes them think that person could be the one too. They never want to get everything that they can get from one person. And realistically, you can't get everything you want from one person. So I understand if some people choose to go the polyamorous route, that's their decision. I respect that. However, it's easy to recognize in some people that if they're never happy with what they have and they keep bouncing from relationship to relationship, or they can't be steady in a relationship, or they don't know what they want, what makes you think she's not gonna do that with some other girl or some other guy later on?
I was scared.
Not everyone's as brave as you.
I'm not brave. I'm just obvious.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? I would say you're not brave, you're just stupid. Another thing I've noticed, Dina is totally love bombing Ellie, and she's been doing that from the start, which is another red flag. Quick definition of love bombing is the action or practice of lavishing someone with attention or affection, especially in order to influence or manipulate them. An example of love bombing is a person showering another person with excessive compliments, gifts, and affection in a short period often leading to a rapid escalation of the relationship and disregard for the other person's boundaries. This can include lavish presents, constant contact, and making grand declarations of love before a genuine emotional connection is established. This is what Dina has been doing with Ellie. And I know some people are gonna be like, it's just fiction. It's whatever. But you can't make the argument that it's just fiction, and then when people poke fun at it, say, well, it's based on realistic relationships and this stuff exists in the real world. Okay, so which is it? Because Dina's been love bombing Ellie from the get-go. Every time. Oh, you're brave. You're badass. You're this. You're this. How is my kids? Totally love that kid. Like, you see someone who isn't that emotionally available and you try to make them fall in love with you because you notice they already kind of are, then you tell them how stunning and wonderful they are, and you're always giving them stuff and clinging to them and hyping them up, basically, and it works for a while, and you convince yourself that you're happy for a while. But what starts to happen if you're Dina or someone like her, you start to become emotionally unavailable, and the chase starts to wear off when you realize that you have the person. Everyone thinks that's something guys strictly do, but no, I've seen women do the same thing. And there are some evil women who aren't truly lesbian, but they'll do that to lesbian girls just to fuck with them. And I don't even think they're doing it completely on purpose, every single one of them, but they kind of get a power trip out of it. And I feel like Dina is that kind of person based on what we're seeing about her. So then we get the scene of Ellie wondering how Dina knows for sure that she's pregnant, and she takes out the pregnancy sticks. And she tells Ellie how it works because I guess Ellie has no idea what the concept of pregnancy sticks are. She knows all the name of astronauts that died in their capsule, but she doesn't know basic biology, which we'll see here in a second, and which is something that I imagine in the small settlement of Jackson, they should be teaching people, you know, since pregnancy is gonna be a thing and preventing it or encouraging it is gonna be a thing, but whatever.
The pregnancy test, the pharmacy, and I peed on it.
Peed on it?
That's how it works. I don't just randomly piss on stuff.
Oh.
5 years. 5 years, and she has no idea what a fucking pregnancy test is.
So we're having a baby.
Bitch. What? No. Dina is having a baby. Jessie is having a baby. What the hell is she talking about? Come on, Miss Potato Head. You just slept with this woman and all of a sudden we're having a baby. You don't even know if this is gonna work long term. You haven't even really started dating yet. You just fucked or didn't or whatever. What in the delusion?
I mean, we and also, I guess, Jessie here.
Jesus Christ. This woman is already inserting herself into this family when she hasn't even established herself as a long-term partner. You didn't put the baby there. Jessie did, obviously. And he's had a longer relationship with Dina. Why is Dina also acting offended by Ellie asking her this? Dina, you're a fucking hoe. You keep jumping on and off Jessie's dick, running around and flirting with a bunch of other people in front of your ex who still has feelings for you and you still have feelings for and you're currently dating with, flirting with Ellie also, and other people, dancing with other dudes and women while you're drunk and kissing other people. I mean, it's okay for Ellie to ask this question based on your behavior. For crying out loud, Ellie is more conservative romantically than Dina is. I really hate when people do that. How dare you ask me that? Even though I'm hoeing around and you don't have the ability to read minds to know all of my romantic proclivities. How dare you ask me that? By the way, she didn't answer the question. I just noticed that.
So we're all having a baby.
No. Jessie and Dina are having a baby. Oh my God. What the fuck is wrong with this person? Again, you've seen how Dina is jumping on and off Jessie. You have no idea if she's gonna go back to him once the hormones start kicking in. You have no idea. This is so cringy. And people who do this are very, very sad. And I can't blame them because they probably have no experience, but I'd be very weirded out if someone told me that.
I'm gonna be a dad.
Ew, what the fuck? What was that line? What is this dialogue or lack thereof? How can you be the father? You're a woman, first of all, and you had nothing to do with the conception of the child. How all of a sudden are you inserting yourself into this and saying you're gonna be the father before Jessie even knows about this? This is so freaking bizarre and creepy. Even if I exchanged out Ellie for a hot guy, this would be next level simpery and weirdo-ness. It doesn't matter if you replace Ellie with someone else, it's still very creepy dialogue and behavior. I wouldn't even say she's gonna be a second mom, but that's what you would be if Dina was okay with it, which you can't really trust anything Dina's saying right now because she's on the high of having just slept with you or whatever the hell happened. She almost saw you die and just learned this new thing about you. You haven't gone back to the settlement, so unless the both of you are planning on staying out here, What the hell are you thinking? I hope it doesn't get to the point where Ellie thinks she can just start making decisions for the baby over what Jesse wants for his child. Does she not know what she is? You know what this comes across as? And I know, story time. It's gonna probably be very cringy for a lot of people to hear this, but me and my best friend, when I was growing up, I consider her like a sister, right? Like, we weren't sisters, but like, she was my closest friend. And she was one of my only friends, as a matter of fact. I was a tomboy, still kind of am, but I was definitely way more of a tomboy when I was little. So whenever we played pretend, I would always be the boy characters and she'd be the girl characters. I'd set up the scene, and I remember, this was my country, mind you, being lesbian or gay was not a normal thing, right? So we went into something called the reading pit, and I told my best friend to pretend she was Nala and I was Simba. We just seen The Lion King because her mom used to sit us down and make us watch all the Disney classics and older movies. So I recreated the scene where they fall over and I'm Simba and she licks me and does the freaking weird bedroom eyes. Every single person and their grandmother knows this freaking scene because they actually ended up doing a better job of laying out the groundwork and making this sexy as fuck, even though they're freaking lions. Look at those open wide legs look that she's giving him, dude. Everybody knows a universal language for that.
For spicy meat. Yeah, boy.
Yes, so she did the bedroom eyes thing and I was over her. We were kids. Yes, I know it was weird, but we were freaking kids, all right? And she looks at me and I smile down at her because we were recreating the scene shot for shot. Then all of a sudden I hear one of our male classmates, the class clown, you probably know who you are if you're watching this. Yes, I miss you. You were hilarious, but you were fucked up too. And he just screams out, pointing his finger at us, "Ew! Lesbians!" Now, I personally didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't feel offended, but my best friend totally did. And she was like, oh shit, started going in panic mode. And she shoved me off of her so hard, I fell on my coccyx. And then she ran after him screaming, "No, we're not! No!" She was so freaking offended. But like, we were just pretending. It was just a game. We did that all the time, but she cared about her social image or whatever. And I went to a prep school. Everybody was rich, but because we weren't as rich as the other kids that had fucking mansions, we were on a lower tier and considered poor. So the last thing you want is people making fun of you. And what didn't help was that I was the poorest, according to them. So it looked bad on my best friend to be associated with me in that way. But it was just so funny how it like completely broke her out of her immersion real quick, even though we were both into it. She wasn't a lesbian, I'm not a lesbian. We were just pretending. It was very clear. We were playing a role. We were playing house with characters. That's what this scene feels like. It feels like little kids trying to recreate something, but it doesn't feel authentic or believable in the least. It feels like a 7-year-old wrote this. And so it comes off very freaking cringy, especially because it's coming from Ellie. And it's very out of place in a show like this. Yay, okay, they're lesbians. And why is the dialogue written like this? It's so painfully forced to the point where it doesn't fit the scene at all or seem in the least bit necessary. Maybe it is something cringy that Ellie would say because Ellie just exists to be cringe anyway, but it was just still so freaking weird. And at this point, The Last of Us is starting to become a parody of itself. Anyway, they hear something on the walkie-talkie and find out where Abby is, someplace in Lake Hill. Then Dina does that scene that kind of reminds me of the Joe Dirt scene. For some reason, it just literally the same thing going on.
See that white building out there? That's it. That's Lake Hill.
Sorry, which one? Are we talking about Ellie's face? Because that's the only thing that looks like her description at this point. Are they stupid? There are so many white buildings out there. What the hell are you talking about? They couldn't even do a full zoom or something? I would have been asking her exactly which white building are you talking about. They never show it. Are they seeing something that we're not seeing? Like what? Is it that one? Like what? Dina, are you suffering from morning sickness? Or did you get bitten? Did the writers? Which is weird, you know, I say it as a joke, but why didn't Ellie check to see if Dina got bitten? That would have been the first thing that I would have done. Has she not learned from her mistakes? Nobody checks anymore? And there were times when Dina wasn't anywhere close to Ellie and she could have easily gotten bitten, even before she knew she got bitten. So why didn't they do bite checks? What the hell?
Different now. Yes, it is. Will you please just think about it?
So now they start arguing because Ellie says Dina should go back because she's pregnant. And Dina's like, no, I'm not going back. We're going to do this together. I'm like so brave and I have no fear. And Ellie's like, okay, because she has zero backbone when it comes to this person. She has all this mouth for everybody else except for this woman. It would be funny as shit if Dina died. At this point, honestly, I don't really care if any of them die. They kill off one main character, so what's one more, right? Why not just kill off the second non-main character? So we're supposed to believe they're going to go there now and try to seek revenge, and that this is their driving force for putting themselves in unnecessary danger? You see, John Wick made sense because he actually had the tools and the skill set to go after those people. He was angry and still suffering from his grief and loss. And so he went on his quest for revenge, and it felt earned. You felt his anger and his pain through this and his justification. With Ellie, with her worried look, it just sounds like they're going on vacation. There's no grief or anger in her at all for what happened. She does not have the visage or the carriage of someone who is on a quest for revenge or someone being driven by it. And we know this because they even show us Abby and how angry Abby is and motivated she is. You believed Abby when she shot Joel that she was on a quest for revenge. But instead, Ellie just looks like she's on a road trip with her bestie, now pregnant girlfriend, but kind of not, because we don't even know what they are. And they're all kiki-keying. It's fun. None of this feels earned or believable, and that's why the show sucks. Where is the fear? Why is Ellie so okay with Dina going with her? Why is Dina not more nervous about being pregnant in a setting where it's dangerous for women to give birth? Not just because of their vulnerability, but because of the health risk factors and a number of things that can go wrong. Why does the vegetation in these scenes constantly look so freaking fake? People are saying this is a well put together production, but I beg to differ. There's so much they could have done right. And at this point, the flaws are outweighing the pros of this show. So that's it for our dumb movie Monday, or it's not Monday and it's not a movie, but you know what I mean. Hope you guys had fun watching stuff rot on screen. Stay tuned for the next adventure. Will Dina get bitten? Will Ellie grow a hyena uterus? Check back next time.
The Last of Us Season 2 is becoming unwatchable. Did we get a huge downgrade from Sunday's episode? The dialogue between Dina and Ellie is so cringe.
And I feel like we could have found a better actor who does. I think there should have been an actor change between Season 1 and 2.
They're in Seattle to kill people. Why does it feel like a high school field trip? They're all giddy and, oh, you're having a baby, I'm gonna be a dad? Where's the worry?